The Quiet Professional, a podcast about law enforcement, security, justice, and politics. We are digging deeper on the issues and going where the information takes us with access to experts and authorities. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Hey everybody, welcome to The Quiet Professional. Today, we got a big one for you. It's on personal development, leadership lessons, and leading a life of purpose. I've got two people with a ton of experience for this to help me out. My guest co-host today is John Simpson. I think most of you would probably know him by now. I don't know how many shows we've done together, John. Well, it's at least a dozen or more. But for those who don't know him, he is a U.S. Army Special Forces veteran. He's currently an instructor with Snipercraft Incorporated and a research historian. And also, John has authored several books covering the fundamentals and advanced tactics of marksmanship and sniper skills. So welcome, John.
Good to be here again.
And our guest today is Markus Anton Weber. Markus is a retired Canadian military and special operations leader with more than 30 years of experience in national defense, security, and complex international operations. He now serves as president and CEO of 242 Group Incorporated, which is a premier security services firm specializing in international risk mitigation across high-risk jurisdictions. He also serves on the faculty of both the United States Joint Special Operations University and NATO Special Operations University. And the connection here today is Markus is an author now. His new book, A Call for Warriors, it translates the disciplined and strategic mindset of special operations into practical principles for personal development, leadership, and resilience. Awesome stuff. Welcome to you, Markus.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm incredibly humbled to be here today, and that you took the time to reference my book. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Hey, I'm glad to get you in here. It's a leadership book unlike any other that I've read. I don't know about John. You've read a million things, so you'd probably be the authority on this. But I took some interesting lessons out of this, especially when it comes to followership. And I've never really seen anybody write on that. So we'll get into that today. But want to talk about the mutual connection, say thanks to a few people that kind of put us in touch and that you've worked with, Markus. I'll let you do that part here.
Hey, listen, every time I hear my bio, it's just incredibly, I just feel blessed to have worked with just the best that society has to offer, both not just in Canada, but multilaterally. When I was in SOCOM, we both worked with an individual that introduced me to you, or vice versa as well, Mark Erdovich. Mm-hmm. We worked down there with 26 other nations. Incredibly humbling. Just the best society has to offer. As well, obviously, a number of combat tours that I've done throughout my career, and we've done that alone. Always had other countries with us supporting, and it's great to continue on with this podcast. You guys are really showing the bilateral unity, which is great between Canada and U.S., and that's a great thing. I mean, nowadays we hear a lot of the chafe that comes with the political partisanship, but we both know, all of us know that when you cut through all that, we're still the best of allies, Canada, U.S., and I love working with the U.S., always have, and I couldn't foresee us doing anything without Big Brother when it comes to things like going into combat, for sure.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate that you take the time to actually thank all those people. None of us got here alone. So, and I certainly didn't get here without John. John's helped out with the podcast a ton and brought in some amazing guests, and he offers so much to the show as well. So, I mean, it's nice working across borders and relating to other people. I mean, we got a lot of shared history, shared issues. It's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and I forgot to thank you for doing this. I mean, what you guys do for the community is well recognized, both for law enforcement, first responders, and military. It's much appreciated. The time you put into this, you guys are doing great stuff for the community.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. One of the things to kind of start off for today is just find to know what got you into the space of authoring and why leadership. So you've had quite the
Yeah,
career. You've been around the world. You've worked with a lot of different people, but
yeah,
why now? What was the catalyst for this whole thing?
yeah. It's a good thing you mentioned catalyst, because retirement was the catalyst. I did 3 decades plus in the Canadian Forces. I made it to the special forces community. I was coming the end of my tenure, and I used that as a excuse to just reflect, look back on my career, look what I'd achieved, but also more importantly, even, is to look forward, and see what's next for me, to ensure that I continue to follow my purpose. Um, Thinking back to some of the foundational lessons, principles that I learned through the military and how it might apply as I take my next steps. And I was lucky. I mean, it came pretty naturally to me, where I fell on, as you mentioned at the beginning, I fell onto some gigs with faculty of 2 important universities, still teaching other communities, other countries, and the upcoming generation of officers. And then I fell into 242 group, and it's what an interesting story that was. I was looking around for, again, something that fulfilled my purpose, and I fell onto this group of guys working out of England, doing great stuff, doing much the same stuff you would do in the military. Gearing towards specialist projects, tactical consulting, teaching high end business. And I rang the guy up asking for a job, and lo and behold, it ends up being somebody that I worked with while I was serving.
Oh wow.
Not only had I worked, he was actually a subordinate of mine when I was in the Canadian Special Ops community. And I couldn't have been more excited to work for this guy. I mean, it's salt of the earth. And, I talk a lot in my book, how do you continue to pursue purpose? This was just a perfect transition for me, moving from the military right into this and continuing pushing forward and doing things that matter to me, and making a difference, I hope. So it was just awesome luck. I believe in fate, and I think there was some of that that went into it, serendipity, whatever you want to call it. It's certainly counting my lucky stars that happened. But it all, that's the crux of my book. Really, is how do you continue to pursue your why, your purpose, even though the situation changes? Because I think your core will never change. It's really just the what and the how of how you achieve the why that changes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I really try to harp upon in my book. I center the first third of the content actually on that.
Yeah, so it was really a life situation, the big change, moving out, and
Yeah.
you know what? That's something. It is, I'd say, a wall that a lot of people, law enforcement, military, collectively run into this. It's like you
Yeah.
hang on to something for a little too long, and it's like, maybe I'm past the expiry date, or I should have left, or things were good. Now it's trending down,
Yeah.
but you just keep hanging on. It's like, well, maybe it's kind of fear of losing purpose in there.
100%. I mean, here's the thing: change is a constant, right? Change is something that we have to accept. It always happens. But what doesn't change is your core why. I think for those of us that are lucky enough to find that, I think we could always hang upon that, and continue to pursue, relentless pursuing, which really is why I call the book The Warrior, a call for warriors. Because I think if you're in that mindset and behavior of continuing to pursue and drive forward, regardless of change, regardless of friction, that's what makes you a warrior. It's not title. It's not those that go into combat necessarily. Those are warriors, certainly, but you could be a warrior as an everyday citizen. Anybody could be a warrior just by pushing ahead and driving towards what you feel is right and what you feel drives you as a person.
What do you think sets your book apart from, there's a million leadership books, just leadership in general. And what, if for you, is different about this?
Well, I think it's genuine to my career path. I mean, I it's an honest reflection. I haven't read all of the books out there. I know there are a lot. But what I did is I took a pretty unique career. I've been blessed to have a pretty unique exposure throughout my career. And it was just in my way of taking all of those lessons learned, compiling it into a simple ways, simple things, or compiling into boxes essentially to follow, and really apply to anybody out there that might be doing their own type of transition, or maybe just examining their life in general and trying to get tidbits of assistance through this unique career path. How does it apply to that type of people? And I'd be remiss not to mention, actually, in fact, and you kind of mentioned it a while back, is the identity piece. It saddens me to no end to see some of our best and brightest, our warriors, that have given up hope, that have left a career, hung everything on that career, and when they leave, they're eventually forced to transition. They've now lost their identity, and they just give into their demons and either become extremely depressed or even commit suicide. I hear about it way too often. I was just privy to a funeral last month on one of our great warriors up here in the Special Forces community, and it's just gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
And I think at least a large part of this book is addressing that, and how do you go through a really large life change, a large transition, but still maintain your why, your purpose.
So would you say that the target audience for this book that you wrote it for, would you say that this would be, I mean, there's, just from my reading of it, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that, it was just like, wow, I wish I knew that on active duty. But the thing is, it's like hearing you talk now, and it's almost like you wrote this book for people that were active duty, either military or first responders, and now they've gotten out, and the people that just on a side note, as you can tell when we're introducing each other, it's like I was I was a sniper instructor in the Army for my last 10 years, and I've been instructing. I continue to instruct military and law enforcement as a retiree. Okay. And every once in a while, it's like I'll be standing there with my hands in my pockets, kicking at rocks, going, I really envy the guy. I envy the guys that I knew that when they hung up their berets, they went and became managers at a landscaping company.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the thing is, it's like, did you consider writing this book as like for guys that were jumping out of airplanes and rappelling down cliffs and everything else, and then they get out and they find themselves running a landscaping company, and they don't have the same purpose, but you have them discovering their purpose. So I'm trying to see who you wrote this target audience for, because it's like usually when somebody brings up, identifies the subject matter of being a warrior. I mean, the thing is, I just get this. I just got this mental image when I picked up your book of some Portnoy in an accounting firm that's never made a fist in his life, and hey, Marcus is telling me that I can be a warrior this way. Okay, so like I said, I was just curious, who did you write this for?
Yeah, so primarily it is the accountant, to be honest. It's geared to, it's me putting together all these lessons that came from a pretty unique, hardcore, dynamic career, but saying, hey, listen, you don't have to go this route to apply some really basic, fulfilling lessons when you're undergoing stress, when you're undergoing moments of transition, when you have feelings of doubt. These are lessons that I picked up throughout 30 years of high intensity ops, but they could still very much apply to the average Joe Blow. That was my target audience, and I was hoping to appeal to. But as a segue, I also acknowledge that, hey, listen, there's guys in my situation that have hung their entire identity on their vocation, and when it's when they're forced to move on or leave or to transition, they've lost a big part of themselves, and they can't get over that hurdle, and they end up falling, to their demons. And I'm trying to say, listen, in the first part of my book, it's all about finding but also maintaining purpose. And one thing I should mention, John, is that I wanted to highlight as well that it doesn't have to be working towards your purpose, doesn't have to be through vocation. I acknowledge that there's some people that take jobs because they have to make money. It's not something they, that's extremely fulfilling for them, but there's other ways to still pursue and to be happy and to press forward. You could be a warrior by being a parent. You could be a warrior by being a better team member, by being a better coach, by just being a better citizen. All of those concepts, the lessons I try to pitch in this book are relevant to all those types of people. And my main message is you don't need to have a certain vocation or to be in an active combat to just demonstrate warrior attributes. It's really just accepting responsibility, showing up each day. It's more about mindset and behavior and pushing forward regardless of situation. And if you could push forward towards a purpose, how wonderful is that? I mean, I give tips on how to find purpose if it hasn't been found yet.
One of the things on that too, and that I found unique about the book was I find a lot of leadership stories are more how to manage people. It's always
Right.
like projecting stuff outward, whereas a lot of the people I've been talking to now, kind of in the law enforcement, military realm, it becomes more self-reflection and self-awareness. And you might even use a specific term here. I had it written down, but it's self-leadership. And that's something that I haven't really seen, again, written about, at least in the way that, you explain this in the book. But it was a lot more about what you were doing in certain situations or what you were thinking or how you handled yourself. And man, I thought that was kind of refreshing, at least for me. That's what I really took from it. So, and that
Yeah, I
stuff,
appreciate that.
yeah, and that stuff I think translates to the civilian world, but they don't.
Yeah, and absolutely,
Yeah.
and similar to the warrior, what I mentioned, you don't have to be in a certain title. You don't have to obtain a certain title or be in a certain vocation in order to be a warrior. Same for being a leader. You don't have to have a certain rank or designation to be a leader. You could be a leader just by being a great follower.
Mhm.
Being a great teammate, being a great coach, being a great parent. Those all call for these leadership traits that I've spent my career learning and applying, very much applicable to all those types of people. So the other message I try to convey in the book is, hey, you could be a warrior and a leader just by being a better person and maybe taking into account some of these lessons learned. I don't claim to know it all. That's another thing. Two things I should probably mention up front. One, I don't claim to know it all. I love to generate discussion from people that read this book. And two, I really much am a guy that's learned from the hard way, from trial and error. I came about a lot of these lessons the hard way. School of hard knocks, getting kicked around a couple of times before it really clicked. Oh, maybe this is the better way of doing things. So this is really 3 decades of lessons learned, compiled into ways that I think would benefit just about everybody that's listening.
Did you, as you were going along throughout your career, were you documenting things because I just think like 30 years, how do you remember half of this stuff? I feel like I'm halfway through a policing career and it's a blur. Like all of it just melds together. And this is something I actually tell people now. Actually, I was telling our chief of police this. I was like, man, we have AI now. You can literally just tell it something and it'll like keep it stored for you and write it down. Like you should be making notes as you go along through your careers. It's something actually they started at the RCMP, for American listeners, it's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, at their training facility in up here, is journaling. And they start that early in their career and writing things down. And it helps people like mentally, but also at the end of your career, you got all these stories and things you can look back on. It's just, how did you go back 30 years? And
I wish I would have done the journaling bit. I actually thought about that. I've done a lot of great. I've been through a lot of conflict zones. Had a lot of dynamic experiences in that. In the amount of time that I spent with CANSOFCOM, the Canadian Special Operations Command. But I never really did document. And journal, not, I wouldn't want to get into OPSEC difficulty or operational security issues, but just putting down some of the lessons, like you mentioned, I didn't. What I did do, though, when it was time to reflect after 3 decades, I started thinking about just basic officer principles, because they get instructed quite early in the career and then maintained throughout, whether through theory or practical. And I just documented and try to compile into easy to understand, workable silos. And to be honest, I excluded a lot of the key principles as well, just because it was getting too much, and I didn't think it was as applicable. So it's really, what I did is boiled down to the basics that I think would best benefit. And there's no panaceas here either. Like, these are all things that I've been taught throughout my career multiple times. And it's really a compilation of things that I think make the most sense for people. So that's the way I approached it. And I do wish I would have done journaling, because I think I would have actually, sparked some memories that would have even further benefited.
Yeah. John, you were holding up a journal. What did you have?
Yeah. I mean, I've been maintaining one of these pretty much as long as I was in the military.
Oh, really?
It's like, yeah. It's you get an idea and you swear you're going to remember it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you're it's like, oh, squirrel. And then it's like, what was that idea that I had?
I've been doing that a lot with the podcast.
Yeah, writing it down with the date and you know what the subject is, and that's where a lot of some of the best ideas I've had. But the important thing is, like, writing them down.
Yeah, absolutely. Reflection's a great thing. I mean, it's I wish I would have done it, but it is what it is.
I wanted to ask you, since you were talking about your training, because your initial leadership training and then the stuff in the book evolved over your career. Did you find that, because one of the things that I always like to bring up is that every officer I've ever encountered has received leadership training at the beginning of their career.
Yeah.
And you find some guys that you would like follow to the ends of the earth. And then there's other guys where it's like, you hear them crying for help and you're like, hey, so what was on the menu for tonight? Okay. So the thing is, it's like, did you, given your perspective, was there anything that you were taught when you were assuming subaltern, back in the day, that was just like, over the course of your career, you were just like, that didn't make any sense. Okay. Because it's like, I have no doubt that there have been a lot of periods where it was like, boy, that thing that, Sergeant McGillicuddy told me, back when I was, 21. I mean, that really made a lot of sense. But, there was this thing where, they covered this, and it's like, what, that really wasn't a good idea.
I don't, it goes back to Nathan's comment about how his like of the followership section. I think actually the Canadian military does it quite well. They start you off with the basics, and that becomes your foundation throughout your career. Followership is a big one of them. Really, it's based on the principles of shared responsibility, empathy towards those that you're in charge of, selflessness. This is all critical for basic officer training that you get exposed to, and it does really become your foundation throughout your career. Even though you move on to bigger, better, more dynamic things, even the tip of the spear stuff as a special operations officer in the National Mission Force, you're still employing and relying on these foundational lessons. And that's why I think you mentioned, John, what did you learn at the beginning and what still applies? I think that is something that resonates. I don't really know of any that I, certainly at the theoretical level, we were taught a lot, and I don't think I could put my finger on anything I didn't agree with, because I think they are all genuine and applicable. But yeah, really, found to become a good leader, you have to have trust of those underneath you. And trust comes from two things, really, from character and from capability or competence. And neither of those start or come to you just from the title alone. You have to earn that. You have to chew the dirt, as we say, with your subordinates and earn their trust that way, and then build upon that to really gain to become the leader you want to be. If you want to be in charge of men that'll follow you into battle, and not just the ones, as you mentioned, John, will just slough you off at the first opportunity. It starts with that followership aspect. And I think that the Canadian military does do it quite well from the beginning, and instilling those characteristics. And another one, of course, is the hierarchy of responsibility. You hear it all the time: mission before self, teammates before self, subordinates before self. Doesn't mean you can neglect yourself. Self, you have to look after yourself. But what it says is that you put your gratitude aside until the mission is complete and your teammates and your subordinates are looked after. So that type of stuff is ingrained from the very beginning, and it's the foundation that remains with you. And it's a great example in the book how I dedicate time explaining what I was exposed to foundationally and how it could apply to everyday citizen.
Speaking of my favorite chapter of the book, which is the followers section, because I was like, I'm going to send this to everybody I work with. So all the constables should be reading this section. Stop making my life hard, kind of thing. But you know what? In there, you had don't fixate on the credit, fairness, and recognition. And I thought those are very key points, because especially in today's world, it's, everybody so just wants like the gratitude, and they want the dopamine hit of like, hey, you get this award, and we seem to hand them out pretty easy nowadays for certain things. And so a lot of people, it's like, I did A through Z and I got zero recognition, and it's a bit of a kick in the nuts sometimes.
Yeah.
But I just thought, if you just keep your nose to the grindstone, good things will happen for you. And whether you're the leader or a subordinate follower, like, there's a lot to be said for doing that. And I think in the end, life actually does just work out better for those people than constantly looking at like, I want something.
Yeah. And the military, we are in the military. When you're a leader, you're able to designate authority downwards. You're able to give your subordinate leaders more responsibility or authority. But the one thing you can never designate is accountability. So when things go wrong, you have to wear it, whether you were, cold faced to that problem or not. You're owning it. And that, by virtue of doing that, it sucks at times, trust me. But by virtue of doing that, you're earning the trust of your subordinates, and it'll work out for you in the long run. The other thing that mentioned kind of segues into one of my favorite chapters, which is OYS, own your shit. Talking about extreme ownership. It's a great way to restore agency, owning your own deficiencies or downfalls. Basically, you're focusing on things that you could affect, and you're disregarding things that you can't. Treating that as shape, acknowledging, hey, this is happening, but really focus on things that you can affect. How can you progress, and how can you do better? And it really talks to a really ancient philosophy of Stoicism, right? Stoicism's been around, 3 decades, probably before the birth of Christ, with the Greeks. And then I remember Marcus Aurelius is a famous Stoic. And these lessons still apply, right? Don't keep moving forward, changing the things that you could affect. Don't listen to the stuff, or don't be consumed with the things you can't, and assume responsibility and take ownership. It's one of my favorite chapters, honestly, is the OIS one.
I think you had something in there about kind of like blocking out noise too, right? Like you really know what you have to do.
That's what it comes down to. And I guess part of it as well, when I get on social media nowadays, I get so much negativity thrown down my throat. And if you really distill it, a lot of it is people just deflecting, right? Not assuming responsibility, pushing it onto somebody else. Really what that leads to is two things: inactivity and negativity.
Yeah.
Really. And it's stuff we don't need nowadays. I think we need warriors more than ever. And we need people that are able to own their things and affect the things that they're able to, that they have jurisdiction over, that they have an ability to change. And when we segue over to one of my favorite chapters as well, another one of my favorite chapters is the resiliency piece.
Yeah.
That is one of the main focuses when it comes to resiliency, is to be able to take ownership of things that you can affect.
It's funny you bring that up. I was actually, on social media, just having I'll call it a debate, because it wasn't like screaming and shouting on there, but it was just talking about the justice system. And so somebody gets a pretty lenient sentence, and in there it says the reasons for why the judge made the decision they did. And defense gives their side where they go, well, this person, they've had crappy parents, a crappy life, everybody's a bad influence, they have no choice, nothing is their responsibility. And I was kind of going back and forth with this defense lawyer, and it was just a bit on the agency piece. And I've brought this up no matter who I talk to across the world, because this came up in a conversation I had with someone who talks about geopolitics out in Ghana, and then a police officer in Australia. And it's like agency, it always comes down to that. And it's like, if you're telling people they have no responsibility for their actions, they're not, they have zero control in their life over anything, then they're going to get into the bad situations. So yeah, we have to instill that almost in every segment of our society. I think that's been taken out.
Absolutely. And without it, you can't progress. I mean, in order for your own personal progression and your pursuit of your purpose, it's a must. You gotta take responsibility and move forward constantly.
Yeah.
My favorite, I included at the end of my book, but my favorite speech is really still Theodore Roosevelt's Man in the Arena. And it's interesting. It was in 1910 that he put this thing out. And he was going through his own period of transition, just like I was when I wrote this thing. He had transitioned out of POTUS, like the president of the United States. He'd already passed that. He was giving a speech in France, and it was really to push back against his armchair critics and say, listen, yeah, I didn't do everything perfectly, but I showed up every day, and this is how it should be done. Take responsibility of those things you could affect, show up, press on, and be a better person as a result.
Yeah.
That's where the kudos should lie, those types of people. And I think when you're in a team or have people that you affect, they recognize that, right? And if they see that in a leader or somebody that has an influence over them, they'll respect that, and you'll get their trust.
Did you have any specific examples or people that really stood out when you were writing this book on the leadership aspects, maybe even the followership one? Is there some stuff that really is key in your mind?
I had a lot of influencers. I mean, I didn't have a mentor per se.
Okay.
I wasn't issue one, but I really just I'm constantly on lookout for, the great leaders that I view as great leaders, and try to take tidbits from their activities, their actions. But I've been lucky enough to be inundated by great officers, great leaders, and great subordinates, great followers. And I'm able to pull upon, like I said at the beginning, I've been blessed to be able to learn from them throughout my entire career. And I'd be remiss to name just one, but it's really been the special operations community, no matter what country that I've worked with, has been it's been a humbling experience, because I'm surrounded by people that are just so on their game and are really demonstrating these key lessons to me, and I'm pulling it in and observing. So not one guy. I think it's really a conglomerate of people across my career. Yeah.
What would you say is the key element, if you had to pick one, when it comes to actual leadership? What really stands out for you? Because I have one in my mind, but I'm curious to see what you might say.
Stands out in what respect?
Maybe just what makes a good leader overall.
Yeah.
What would be a very key element to have?
Certainly followership is huge to maintain that, or to at least develop that respect and trust. But once that trust is developed, it's somebody that could take action.
Okay.
I've been privy to leaders that were just hamstrung because they were looking for clarity in every situation. And I think the best leaders I've been privy to are the ones that are able to mitigate or assess risk properly,
Yes.
mitigate risk and get on with it. And at the same time, not pretend to know it all, right? You don't have to have an ego by protecting certainty. You have to be able to listen to your subordinates, acknowledge the fact that I'm not going to know everything every time. So we call it situational awareness a lot of times, listening to the people who are at the coal face and get that ground truth, get, the information from people that are either know what they're talking about or been there, done that, or at the coal face and able to provide you ground truth. Apply critical thought to that and then act. Don't wait for a perfect situation. Obviously you're going to mitigate risk. You're going to assess it. You're going to come up with contingencies, but you got to make a decision. And the leaders I've respected most are the ones that they're able to act.
Yeah.
While at the same time gathering information from those that might, have a bit of a better perspective.
It's interesting you say it in kind of in that order too. I like the action part. So I'm going to attribute that answer to you. And in there you had don't be a know-it-all. And that's one of the things that I think at this point in my career, with the people I've dealt with and the people I currently do deal with, humility just seems to be a gap in a lot of people's game. And I feel like that's like a huge part of leadership because it helps the followership, right? You're bringing them up. Like, I can admit I don't know everything. Hell, just yesterday I'm up acting for my boss, so I'm up acting staff sergeant. So people come to me, do charge consults. Hey, I arrested this guy. Which I want to charge him with this, and I hear their whole story. It's like, let's work through this together, right? I don't have all the answers. Like, let's do it together. And and then you talk about
It's no surprise that humility is one of the core values of the special operations community.
Okay, yeah.
Humility is one of them, and we talk about culture and ethos. That's the biggest driver of behavior. Humility is one. The pursuit of excellence, constant pursuit of excellence, dedication. Like, those values matter. And the culture and ethos always matters as well, and that happens to be two of the ones that come to mind.
Yeah, I like ethos, man. I might be working on a project with that involved in the title for a future podcast thing. So,
all right,
yeah, it's
anxious to hear that one.
It's good.
Hey, before we segue away from the action bit, I dedicate the last portion of the book on taking action because I think it's so important. But I reflected back, and it was. Each of our units have a motto, a Latin motto, and the command as well has their own motto, and each one is geared towards that. And it didn't click until I started to reflect back and translate. But our Special Operations Command and part in the Latin, I'm not a Latin scholar, but Vien Inviemus is we will find a way. That's the motto for the entire command. Our National Mission Force, JTF2, facta non verba, deeds not words. Our Special Operations Regiment, roughly similar, John, to the SF, a bit different, but they do SF. They focus on SF tasks. There's this Audemus and Let Us Dare. So all of these is like emphasizing the fact that, listen, it's going to come time to act. We can't wait for that perfect clarity. Risk will always be inherent. Change will always be inherent. There's always going to be what we call the fog of war. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term, but
because of it, yeah.
There's always going to be outside influencers, yeah. So it's a matter of taking that all into account and pressing forward. Always pressing forward.
I bet John could send you a ton of history on all those terms too. You'll have something on that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to come across as a know-it-all, so
you just know where to find it. That's the thing,
yeah.
Right? You find this stuff. John has sent me, and this is for listeners too. John has sent me more history on the RCMP because I was in the RCMP for a couple of years. He sent me more stuff with more depth than what I ever found at their their actual museum at Depot in Regina, Saskatchewan. So, I don't know where you get it from, but
it's what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the company that I own.
That's why you and Mark Gerdovich are such great friends. You're kind of the same cloth.
But well, I mean, and it's funny you should bring up Mark, because as I've made no secret, both telling him and the reading public that he's made an incredible contribution to the literature with his book, Those Who Face Death. And when I was reading your book, I basically tarred you with the same brush, because in chapter 2, where you're talking about start with what you're built for, and you've got a line in here. So basically, it's like you have a, I don't want to call it a checklist, but you have a list here of things to do. I guess you're calling them strategies, and where it goes, what do I do well even when I'm tired, stressed, or in unfamiliar territory? And now, I normally put little Post-it flags in books, and I never write in them. But in ink in your book, yeah, I've written selection ? Okay, which is highly unusual for me. And I did that because the thing is, it's like, not to go too far afield, but if you look at if you ask anybody in the the British Special Air Service, were famous for their selection. Well, why does selection work? And they're like, we don't know. We just know that it does work. I mean, carrying rucksacks through the mountains of Wales and everything else. And so the thing is, it's like, when it was just like, what do I do well even when I'm tired, stressed, or in unfamiliar territory? And I was just like, that's basically what every selection I'm familiar with has going on, where you're putting people in, stressful, often chaotic situations, and you're seeing how they react. You're not teaching them anything, because you didn't take the approach of, well, you need to have this quality and this quality, and when this happens, you need to do this. And you are actually doing the traditional warrior thing of the journey of self-discovery, where you find out, okay, here's who I am, here's what I bring to the situation. And so what I wanted to ask you, going back to our imaginary accountant again, is one thing if you're in special operations, or even in a number of law enforcement circles, the FBI hostage rescue team has their own selection program. Let's say you're Portnoy the accountant. How do you evaluate how do you do a selection for yourself? Do you, is this, because it's one thing in spec ops, hey, I volunteer for this. These guys are going to, grab me, run me through selection, and then I'm going to find out what I'm made of. Okay. How does a person find out what they're made of when there is no selection at their accounting firm, and they're just like, okay, what do we find out when there's that, and I'm just spitballing, when the, hey, most stressful thing is, when there's a run at the bank, or, something, something is going on in accounting world that's extremely stressful. Okay. How does that warrior accountant find out what he's made of?
You're right. It's not always easy. I couldn't imagine going through selection without following a purpose, to be honest. You have to have a real why, or you're not going to make it. And I'd like to actually circle back, because there's a great piece on selection as it pertains to followership as well. But yeah, so I'm hearing you, John, and I think I actually dedicate a part of part 1 as well towards those that are having a hard time distinguishing what exactly their purpose might be. And I think it's really a number of things. First off, what makes you feel good? Like what do you feel fulfills you? What are some patterns of behavior that really give you fulfillment? What are some of the things that you're naturally good at? I call them superpowers in the book, but
right.
I believe everybody's been given a superpower, and that might be a good indicator of, potentially an area that you might want to explore for purpose. And I do give a lot of other hints as well. I talk about what would you do if you had no money? What would you be doing if money was not a factor at all? What do you want written on your tombstone? What do you want people to say as a eulogy for you when you're dead? There's a number of different strategies I do mention, and it's not easy unless you're sometimes you're succumb through difficulty. But one thing I will say as well, finding your purpose is usually never something. It's just not an immediate epiphany. Usually it takes baby steps. Usually it takes trial and error with some serious reflection accompanying it. So it's something that you just got to live and adjust and redirect and keep searching. And sometimes it takes longer. Some people take longer than others. Some people fall under it fairly quickly and they're lucky. But it takes work. And it's usually by incremental steps, not at this amazing epiphany all of a sudden. So I think I guess a long answer to your shorter question is you just have to start with something, trial it, reflect, adjust, and then continue onwards. Another great strategy is talking to people that know you well and say, hey, what do you think is different about me? What do you think I'm good at? What makes me happy? And then self-reflect, hey, what does make me happy? And go from there. But before we extend beyond that, I mean, I was remiss not to discuss selection as part of the followership piece, Nathan, when you brought it up. What a great analogy of followership. I mean, just about all selections I've heard of or know of in the special operations community, it's all about stripping rank, stripping identity. You become a number essentially during selection, and really the lesson learned there is you are showing up every moment of every day, writing your own resume. You are what value you bring to the table. There's absolutely no institutional reinforcement to that method. And I think that is part and parcel of what followership is. It's what you bring to the table. It's not a rank. It's not an appointment. You're not relying on reputation. It's all about the value you bring at that point in time.
Yeah.
And what a great analogy for followership as well. I segue a bit, I acknowledge, but
yeah, no, it was good.
Yeah.
It reminds me of something that I was telling some people when I used to work in our gang suppression team, and we did a big selection where we split into 2 teams. So we had a whole bunch come in at one time, and even some of the smaller ones where you just get 1 or 2 people at a time. But I would always say to them, like, it's whether you're in here with 4 years of experience on the job or you're a 15-year member, you're not treated any differently. It's not, oh, this is the rookie. Hey, make this person do the jobs that I don't want to do and stuff. It's like you got picked because you've met certain standards. So now it's just on me as the more senior person here or the veteran to make sure I get you up to speed as fast as possible. And your voice is just as important as anyone else on this team. Again, you're picked to be here, contribute right away. That's all you got to do.
Yep.
And it's not putting anyone above.
You got to park your ego at the door, man, and listen to the people around you. A lot of times they're going to give you the feedback, the information you need to make the decision you have to make.
Mm-hmm. Just as we're coming up to the end of the time here, I wanted to just find out, like, what's next for you, Markus? What book tour coming up, podcast tour, just sticking it with 242 group. So what's on the future for you?
You know what? I did put a lot of time and effort towards nonprofits when I was in the U.S. I was seconded to the U.S. for 10 years, doing some great work down there with great nations. And I started to get involved with the Wounded Warrior programs that are so prolific down there. Not as much up in Canada, unfortunately, but there are a few really good ones up here as well. And I think I want to see ways which I could contribute in that respect through my book.
Okay.
I mentioned the two audiences I'm really gunning towards. I think I might want to pay a bit more attention when it comes to the book towards the warrior, the wounded warrior community, and see how this might help in terms of finding purpose and keep pushing forward throughout all the mess, and driving forward and finding purpose.
Yeah.
And then, a big part of my focus will be continuing working with 242 Group. Again, that's an organization I believe in. They're doing great things. They're serving. It's much the same community that I left. So it was a quite simple decision, to be honest, when they came and knocked on my door and asked me to join. So those are going to be my two main efforts, as they say, in the immediate future.
Well, and I was thinking, I'm like, maybe with Mark's doing all those book tours of his own, he can get you like at least a side table, and he could put you next to him, and you guys can...
I'd be honored if he gave me a side table.
Yeah. Hey, where can people find you, connect with you, and also pick up a copy of the book?
Yeah. So, hey, Nathan, if you could include in the show notes, that'd be great. My LinkedIn, please reach out on LinkedIn, or as well, I'll make sure to pass on the Amazon links to pick up an ebook or a soft copy as well. I'm not super prolific on social media. I probably should get better, but LinkedIn is there if you need me. I also, if you could include 242group.com as the business as well, if guys are interested in seeing what that's all about.
Yeah, you bet.
And again, guys, super, super honored to be on this show. Thanks for what you guys do. And I'm very humbled, in fact, to be on here.
Oh, the honor is ours for having somebody like you on the show. So
I appreciate that, my friend.
All right. Well, we'll have to have you back on. I want to say thanks for everything you do for the veteran community, and even in the civilian world, because when these lessons translate over to that, I mean, it's helpful for everyone. So I recommend everybody picks up a copy of this book. I will put all those links up in the episode description so people can find everything there. And thank you for being on the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. Take care of yourself.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening in and following along with the discussions. Be sure to click the follow or subscribe button on your respective listening platform. Also, check out the Quiet Professional on X and Instagram under TQP780. And most importantly, please share where you can. Everyone has a part to play in getting these education and information pieces out there, so pass it along. Thanks again.